Welcome to Mobilize Talks podcast series, brought to you by Gilbarco Veeder-Root, Middle East and Africa.
Welcome to the Fuel Files. I'm really super excited to be leading this podcast series, which is part of the Mobilize Talks. And this is the very first episode for us. So thank you all for tuning in. This series looks to explore the operational challenges that face anyone who operates a fleet or consumes fuel as part of the operation. We are focusing specifically on the Middle East and Africa region. You may ask why we're doing this. Well, that's because we really want to keep this regionally relevant, using global challenges, experience, as well as trends, but ensuring that these are relatable to us in this region. I'm McQuade, and I've been with this industry for the past 25 years. My passion is solving challenges that this industry faces and making a real difference for the operators that I engage with. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Thando Sibindi. Thando is the Commercial Director for Vontier Fleet Solutions in Middle East and Africa. Hey, welcome, Thando. Why don't you share with me a bit about how you arrived where you are today?
Thanks, Sean. It's great to be here. Well, I guess we start off from the beginning, right? My career, this has really been or it's been shaped by one core interest. It's really been about decision making in real time and how we help complex asset-heavy businesses make better decisions in that real time. Early on, I worked in commercial and operational teams and saw the same pattern again and again. It was all about, decisions, because they say there's the quick and the dead. Those who are able to make decisions now are the ones who are able to actually embrace the change real time. So in seeing this pattern again and again where decision was an issue, there was often a gap between what was happening on the ground and what leadership could actually see on a screen. In a region like the Middle East and Africa, where operations are often spread across remote sites, long supply routes and demanding environments, that gap becomes expensive very quickly. That's what drew me into the space and ultimately into my role in various other positions I've held, where I focus on data and decision science, turning operational data into decisions that protect uptime, margin, as well as control.
Great. Thanks for that bio. It's really interesting for me to hear how you've progressed with many different industries along the same path and driving that data integration. So as part of this podcast, we want to introduce what we're calling a smile moment. Our listeners may be asking, what is a smile moment? So SMILE stands for single most interesting learning event. And it's just a bit of fun for us to get our guest speaker thinking a bit and sharing a bit more about themselves. So Thando, what is your smile moment?
Sean, so my smile moment goes beyond the smile moment. I'd actually refer to it as a laughing moment. But as they always say, one must respond to the exam question. So here goes. I love this question around smile because my smile moment was actually very simple and very telling. I was visiting a large mining operation with world-class equipment, sophisticated logistics, and serious capital investment. But when I asked how they measured fuel on site, someone arrived with a wooden stick, dipped the tank, and wrote the reading down by hand. That moment stayed with me. It captured that contradiction perfectly. Highly advanced operations still relying on very basic fuel processes. And in our markets, where the cost of delays, the shrinkage or emergency resupply can be significant. That is not just inefficient. It is a strategic risk. That was the moment I knew fuel visibility was not a nice to have. It was a leadership issue.
Yeah, it always ceases to amaze me that, wherever I go, some of these operations still rely so heavily on that wooden dipstick. And, we've seen time and time again where that wooden dipstick, it introduces such operational challenges, not to mention the health and safety of the people that are using those kind of dipsticks to take the readings. Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree to that, Sean. Going on, from where I started and how I arrived where I am today, one could actually say, from the first moment I saw the dipstick, I said to myself, okay, where to from here? So I spent a lot of time listening to operators across fleets, across mines and construction environments to understand where the real friction sat. What became clear was that the hardware was only part of the answer. The real opportunity was in the intelligence layer, taking raw tank data, delivery data, and consumption data and turning that into timely decisions people can actually act on. My role today is really the result of following that opportunity, helping customers across the region move from manual control to to digital visibility and from hindsight to foresight.
Great. Thanks, Thando. So for our listeners, today we're going to be talking about something that is surprisingly common across far too many operations, the invisible fuel tank. Despite fuel being one of the largest operating costs for operations like fleets, construction companies, and mines, as Thando mentioned in his bio, many of these operations still lack real-time visibility into their fuel inventory. This lack of visibility creates inefficiencies, risk, and ultimately they lose money. With the current fuel prices where they are at the moment, this is even more critical than ever. But regardless of the fuel prices where they are, this is still good operational practice for these operations to implement. When I ask most site managers exactly how much fuel is currently in their tanks, the answer is often an estimate rather than a precise number. So Thando, in your experience, what causes this lack of understanding of how much fuel an operation has on hand?
Sean, in most cases, it comes down to process maturity. Many operations are still relying on manual dipsticks and manual routines that only give them a static reading once a day. And fuel is far too dynamic for that. Then you have the delay between measuring, recording, capturing, reporting the number, which means management is often making decisions on information that is already out of date. And of course, spreadsheets try to bridge the gap, but timing differences around shipped cutoffs, deliveries, and dispensing activity often create more confusion than clarity. So while it may feel like there's control, the business is often working off assumptions in practical terms. They are not managing live inventory. They're managing yesterday's estimate.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. When the information about fuel levels is delayed or incomplete, as you mentioned, the entire operation starts making decisions based on assumptions rather than data. That's clearly a dangerous situation to be in. When operators don't have real-time visibility into their fuel levels, several operational problems begin to appear. And Thando, in your experience, what do you see in these operations that cause these problems?
What we typically see is that uncertainty in fuel inventory starts to show up as operational risk very quickly. The most visible example is run dries. Equipment stops, production is interrupted, and fleet availability drops. In many African and Middle Eastern operating environments where sites can be remote and replenishment is not always immediate, that downtime becomes especially costly. Then comes the knock-on effect, which is rushed or inefficient deliveries, often at a premium cost because teams are reacting rather than planning. And the part that worries many operators most is hidden loss. If you do not have real-time visibility, leaks, theft, or unexplained variances can continue far too long before anyone sees the pattern. By then, fuel is gone, the margin is gone, and the root cause is much harder to isolate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Thando. I think in your first example, when you spoke about run dries, we all been exposed to the mining environment where production can never stop. And if you run out of fuel, production stops. And that's how mines make their money and drive their revenue. As well as big logistics companies and transporters, if their fleets stand because they don't have fuel, they are not generating revenue. So it's really critical for those organizations to make sure they have the fuel to support their operations. So what I see that makes this particularly challenging is that many of these issues that we've listed above or talked about previously don't show up immediately. They slowly erode efficiency and increase the operational risk. So I'm really glad to share some good news with our listeners. This problem is solvable. With modern fuel monitoring technology available today, we see technologies like automated tank gauging and fuel management systems, when implemented correctly, solve many of these problems for these operations. And with that, we're going to say thank you to our listeners. Thanks for joining us on Mobilize Talks, The Fuel Files, Episode 1. We're really happy to be starting this series, and we look forward to our next episode where we'll explore another challenge facing many of these operations: fuel shrinkage.
Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.